Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. I thought I'll make a very short video about a point that keeps coming up, and actually I've just discovered that a YouTube channel called We the Seekers has actually made a video about my video, which I think is very, very, very good. I just found it by chance because I was trying to find my own channel and I typed in Stop 007. And then that happened to be the second or third video that came up. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. So I clicked on it. And I really, you know what, I am so grateful for anybody who takes the time to make their own videos, to communicate what I'm saying and make it accessible to your followers. I think this is really, really valuable work that you do for our society, wherever you are in the world. And this particular video had a couple of very, very good points. So I will put the link, down below, but the YouTube channel is called We the Seekers, and I think the video is, today on the 9th of December, the fourth video. Oh no, sorry, he also posted my question time. Oh, sorry, no, it is it's called, hang on, I had it here, Psychotronic Attacks, EMF, and the gang stalking of Dr. Katherine Horton. And the YouTube video has actually a diagram of its psychotronic gun. There's a picture somewhere on the internet where I think Medvedev, the Russian president, is holding one of these on some arms fair or something. And it literally looks like a very short, very stout gun with a round disc, like a conical disc on the front, and that's a psychotronic gun. I've never actually seen one of these, or this is the first diagram I'm seeing on the YouTube channel, but this is how to find it. I'll put the link below. And what I would like to say about that is the following. At 1 minute 50, the gentleman who's compiled the video says he was a quartermaster in the Navy 20 years ago, and he talks about his experience when he actually was on a ship, and then he went into the radar room, and he said there was equipment, and this is 20 years ago, so he's describing the technology 20 years ago, and he says in this room there was all sorts of fancy equipment for radar and radio and everything, and there was also a piece of equipment to project illusions of other ships. Now I would be intrigued to actually hear more about that, because I don't know anything about military tech. My first experience of it is when I started being assaulted. But, this technology does exist. And then he describes how when he was in the room, someone just turned on the equipment, probably not knowing that he was in there. And he was suddenly just, received this massive dose of just these radio frequencies. And the radio frequencies passed through us. So he said he felt that his brain was quivering or something like that, and literally it was going through all his body, and that's essentially what the victims feel. So this is why we're saying, or at least I'm saying it, maybe other victims say something else. This is not like, like space aliens or black magic or something. No, this is radio frequencies. Okay, and it's in situations and by accidents like that, where people essentially are by accident experimented on, that you can actually see what it feels like and what happens to human beings when they're exposed to this. The intensity must have been just absolutely insane. And fortunately now 20 years ago he's fine, and he survived. But if you are exposed to this over a long period of time, you essentially get neurologically and physically degraded, and it can cause cancer. So and then he also said that up until he heard my video, he didn't hear, so this is a direct quote, I did not hear it happen to anybody famous, or to anyone famous. So that was his direct quote. Well, what I did is a while ago I wrote to the German Federal Police because I got brutally attacked in Germany. And this is the letter I sent to them. They are called, sorry, can you see? Bundeskriminalamt. And in there, I essentially gave them a list of Germans who've been tortured to death or murdered, and it's all related to weapons testing and human experimentation in Germany on civilians, or people who spoke up about it and then just died. But then on the second page, I sent them a list of essentially famous people you can Google. Some of them are really famous, and I'll just read it out for you, so that everybody actually knows about this stuff. And by the way, just to tell you what happened with the letter, so you can see that the paper here is kind of like grey, and the paper there is white, you know, I mean, you can see it's two different types of paper, left and right. So that's the letter from the police that came back, and they, actually the white letter is mine, and you can see that they ripped out my staple here on the corner, stapled it to this letter, and returned my physical letter so that it does not appear. Here, this is my signature. Sorry, the camera is like, it's like image reverse, so I'm struggling. There's my signature. And they just returned my letter so that it doesn't appear in my file, because they didn't want to hear about these things. They literally didn't want it to appear in my file. By the way, for the record, because this is evidence, my file with the Bundeskriminalamt is Z112-2-5399. So, you know, for the Nuremberg trials 2.0, which we hopefully will have one day, this is one piece of evidence. I have notified them, you know, I've notified the police many, many times, but specifically to the German Bundeskriminalamt. I wrote again on the 2nd of November after having written to them on the 4th of October in absolute desperation, reporting about essentially crimes that happened to me all across Germany, so transcending the competence of any one state. So Germany has got 16 internal states, you know, a bit like the US has got internal states, and so has Germany. And Germany has 16, and every state has its own police force, but then the Bundeskriminalamt is kind of in charge of them all, and the Bundeskriminalamt also is the one that has got international connections. So it's working with Interpol and Europol and all these other, you know, police organizations. And because my case, I was essentially continuously, seamlessly assaulted from Italy, you know, across Switzerland, to Germany, but also in the Netherlands, and then into Germany, and then in Spain, and in the UK, and I'm a German citizen, I informed the Bundeskriminalamt, and they couldn't give a damn. So the letter I received from them, sorry, I'm just covering up my private address. I will read it out, so this is for those who speak German, and I will read it out, the translation in English, and they say, Dear Dr. Horton, or Dear Mrs. Horton, the BKA, so the Bundeskriminalamt, is not responsible for your case. Your first point of contact is always the local police or the Attorney General. Should the things you describe also happen in Switzerland, please contact the local police there. Well, I did, but then who do you contact if you're assaulted in Italy and then you flee to your parents in Germany and you get assaulted all across Switzerland, you know, from Italy all the way through Italy, all across Switzerland, all across Germany, and then you're assaulted at your parents' house in Germany, and then you also travel across several states and you keep being physically assaulted because people shoot microwave guns at you. Like, who do you call? You know, Ghostbusters? I mean, really, the Bundeskriminalamt is you know, anyway. So but I did contact my local police, and they couldn't give a damn. They couldn't give, like, the slightest bit of a damn. And then the final sentence, which I think is essentially a criminal in itself, you know, is we ask you to refrain from writing to us again. And I'm not making this stuff up. It says in German, wir bitten Sie, here, wir bitten Sie von weiteren Schreiben, Eingaben an das BKA abzusehen. And this was signed by Mr. Rainer Maser. And this was on the 9th of November 2016. So this is how big the police cover-up is. The fact that we are being, basically human experiments are being trialed, and citizens, human rights are stripped unilaterally by the intelligence agencies, and, you know, sounds like also by the police. And the police is just there watching, and people have been, some of them who've died, who've been murdered, or who just couldn't take the pain anymore and killed themselves, have been complaining to the police for years. And there's evidence for that. It's all over the internet. And I will, you know, bit by bit point out these people. So just to explain to you how massive the cover-up is. And then when you talk about people who worked in the military, this sort of equipment is there. We know about it. It's not like we have to prove its existence. But the police just goes, la la la, no, I don't hear anything. But everybody in the military knows. Yeah. So when this gentleman from We the Seekers went into the radio room, what he experienced was essentially the biological effects of intense radio frequency radiation, you know. I mean, we're talking military kit, so his body must have been just like in a radio frequency bath, you know. But that's essentially what it feels like. But the point is that this was 20 years ago, and that was like a big equipment for a ship, like probably warship. And so then what we have now 20 years ago, and will not surprise anybody, I'm saying these things have become smaller. And if you use a focused beam, you know, instead of just filling the entire room this gentleman was in with these radio frequencies, you know, or project out to pretend that they are ships, instead you just put all this energy into a beam and you just blast a human being with it. What I'm saying is that this stuff, you know, you can hit people from a distance, you can hit them in their own home, and they will feel the same thing. And when they complain to people about this, if you've been in the Navy and you've seen this equipment, immediately should be like, oh, okay, they're being attacked with radio frequencies, you know, or with microwave frequencies. I mean, the definitions are blurry, but you know what I mean, electromagnetic frequencies. I don't exactly know, because this is classified, which exact frequency they're using to create certain sensations, but that's the general, you know, kit that we're talking about, high intensity electromagnetic waves focused at the human being, you know. And this is how you have to think. You have to think, oh God, yeah, I have seen that, you know. It does exist, and everybody in the military knows, you know. I just, when I went to the court, the tribunal hearing of Dr. Stephen Frost versus the MOD, there was someone there from the British military, and I spoke to them. And I said microwave weapons, and he wasn't surprised. He's like, yeah, you know, I mean, that's the kit that they're now using. So, you know, that's one thing. And then not heard about anybody famous. I wanted to deal with that. Well, the people I found, who I think are famous, so there's Professor Daryl Hamamoto from the University of California, Davis, who's on the Alex Jones show. You can Google it, and it's one of the video interviews where he actually complains about being stalked at UC Davis, and essentially student cops and student snitches are being recruited in large numbers to just, you know, wear him down, troll his lectures, and spy on him. So this kind of like gang stalking, ganging up and organized stalking phenomenon has been reported by him. Dr. Eric Karlstrom, Emeritus Professor of Geology at University of California, Stanislaus, he says that he's been stalked for years, but now, since the beginning of the year, is being heavily irradiated. And there's a YouTube video of him. If you go to my website, stopwo7.org, and you go down to Rock the Boat, that's all the whistleblowers and all the people who've complained about this stuff. You will find the exact video of Dr. Eric Karlstrom, you know, where he mentioned this. And I think it's towards the end where he actually says, you know, after he explains everything, there's like private contractors and proliferating intelligence agencies, he says, you know, that's what's happening to me. They made me physically very, very, very sick, you know, with these microwave weapons and these electromagnetic weapons. Then there's Karen Hudes. She's the ex-general counsel of the World Bank. She's been hit with scalar weapons, and you can see her, you know, online. What she does is she's got a bi-weekly YouTube show, and you can, I think at some point, maybe it was in August, 8th of August or something, that rings a bell, where she had, but please check, I'm not sure about the exact date, but it was this year. She was hit with scalar weapons that essentially, I think what they do is essentially just demolish your, you know, fine neurological, you know, the synapses and interconnections. That's what I think. And then essentially you've got stroke-like symptoms because, you know, all these connections have been snipped by just like one big pulse that, you know, also can move things physically. So you rip up, you know, the fine structure of the brain. This is how I explain it. But either way, she was hit by scalar weapons. It has got stroke-like symptoms, and you can juxtapose what she was like before and after the scalar attack. And really it looks like she had a stroke. And she says, no, I've been to the doctor, and they confirmed it's not a stroke. And she is on public record saying that it is not a stroke. So then there's James Walbert, an inventor, famously not just stalked and irradiated, but also implanted. He's got a court case as well. Julian McKinney, ex-military intelligence or US Army intelligence. She's been stalked and irradiated and is on public record talking about that. And she says now these days they just shoot at my head, even out of doors. Exactly what happened to me as well. Renata Murray, she's an activist. You can find her on YouTube. She's being stalked and I think also irradiated. There's John McAfee, you know, from the McAfee antivirus software, the developer of the antivirus software. Well, John McAfee is also on public record on the Alex Jones channel. I think this is the one where he was running for senator, and he says, I'm stalked wherever I go. You know, I'm like the most important thing to the FBI. And that's what people think when they're on these gang stalking programs, you know, but it's not because you're like the only one or the most important one, but suddenly you have these clouds of gang stalkers, you know, wherever you go around you. So you think, oh my God, all these resources are being used just for me. No, they're there all the time. They've been built up over a year. And sometimes it's not just because John McAfee is famous. So the FBI has got an interest in him, and the CIA, because he is running for senator. But I'm saying it's the same stalking network, and normal people, like what you would call like people who are not VIP, absolutely unknown, totally isolated, they'll experience exactly the same thing as well. Because it's the same network. It doesn't matter for the network if they're stalking famous John McAfee or Joe Blogs, who no one ever heard about. So this is why you have to listen to the victims. Then there's also Eric Leo. You can find him online. I think his YouTube handle is Jimmy N. Cricket or James N. Cricket. You know, the little cricket from Pinocchio, the Disney film, that's his icon. But his real name, I think, is Eric Leo. And he has been talking for a long, long time about gang stalking and organized gang stalking. He identified what he said is the machine organized gang stalking, the Morgs program, as he called it. And I think that's very accurate because a lot of it is computer steered, you know. So before we had senior handlers, and now you don't even need senior handlers. You know, they're also being replaced by robots. So he said his impression was that by now it's all machine steered. You know, the irradiation that you receive, the stalking is organized. You have these real gang stalkers down on the street, but they don't know that they're actually being, you know, their stalking is being organized by a software algorithm, you know. Could be. I think I've seen, you know, I've seen mostly evidence for actual real human beings interacting, but then again I'm in Europe and the US might be more advanced. So, but I think Eric Leo is worth listening to. What really creeped me out like nothing is that he went on for over a year in detail describing what I've seen and what all these other people on my list have seen and have talked about publicly. And then I think last time I checked, these were the last two videos. And he's like, oh, no, it's all schizophrenia. And yeah, I'm sorry, guys, it turns out it's all schizophrenia. And during the video, he's like gently rocking back and forth. And he looks totally whacked out when he says that, but like gently rocking back and forth. And meanwhile, all his previous videos, he's smiling, joking, you know, being himself. He comes across like a normal human being. And when it's like schizophrenia, it's like, it turns out I've got schizophrenia. I'm like, whoa, did an AI system just take over your brain into, you know, your brain print and your brain electrical signals? Because that's what it looks like to me. Honestly, I mean, you make up your mind. I'm just saying, and I will make a video about, you know, mental health and what the signature of schizophrenia is. But I'm sorry, I took this guy to be totally normal. And when I saw that video, I'm like, holy shit, the CIA just brain fucked a really clever young academic. Like that's basically what it looked like to me. But make up your own mind. Find these people, get on the case. And one thing I can say to you is that if you do research yourself, you Google, as soon as you get active and you type stuff in and you go after it like a detective, you will get more involved. And the entire experience, even if it's really sickening stuff, really scary stuff sometimes, the experience of you going after it like a detective yourself will be much more rewarding than just sitting in front of the TV and let yourself be irradiated. So you go after it, honestly. Or if you can't be bothered, you know, like that's the thing. If you're on a rainy Saturday and you don't know what to do with your teenage kids because they are, you know, tearing the roof down, what you should say to them is, kids, here's a challenge. I'll give you 3 hours on afternoon, and by dinner time, I want you to find out X. And X could be anything, like who actually did 9/11, or who did something else. And literally, and you say, kids, you're not allowed to call anybody, so no phone jokers here. The only thing you're allowed to use is Google and YouTube on anything you can find on the net. Go. See you in 4 hours. And this is a game, this is a detect, and literally if you do that to your kids, because they're clued in anyway, you will actually activate their brain. They have to go out, not just watch YouTube videos, they go out, they look this stuff up, and actually you teach them a lot about, research, how to collect information, and then you discuss with them what information you trust, what not to trust. And sometimes the sources you can trust and don't trust look the opposite. Something that looks really sleek, well done, everybody, all the women presenting it look like top models, and then you can dissect and say, but what they're saying, isn't it utter tosh? So, just use your kids. If you can't be bothered and you don't have the time to do research, use your kids. Maybe not about this topic because it's heavy going, but then again, I mean, kids are just like doing shooter games most of their waking hours anyway, sadly. So it might be that one of your sons will say, yeah, you know what, Dad, one of the computer games actually had a microwave gun. He won't be surprised, you might be. So this is how it is. We have this like system inversion, and what you can find out online yourself is incredible. I mean, I actually remember a talk by Sir Richard Dearlove, the ex-head of MI6 at I think it was Cambridge University, and you can find that on YouTube too. And he says, actually now, he said, one of the things he said is you don't need that much secrecy anymore. Well, I thought, thank God, they actually talk sense occasionally. And then what he said also is that it's amazing what you can find online if you're looking, if you know where to look. So, in a sense, at some point, if you just have a brain and know where to look, you can just make a lot more progress, and sometimes find out stuff that maybe only intelligence agents know, So use the internet, please use the internet, do the research, and please, everybody I mention, look it up. Don't just take my word for it. If you don't have the time, on my website, I have linked, I think most of them. I'm really, inundated. So I'm trying to put down all the videos which I have seen, which I think are really good ones about the people I mentioned. But everybody I mentioned you can find online. So, Eric Leo we had. Well, you all heard about the unfortunate death of the journalist Michael Hastings. Brian Tew, actually spelled Bryan, and then Tew. He is, I think, an ex-NSA contractor or the whistleblower who's being heavily irradiated and is being tortured, and it's all on his YouTube channel. You can find him. Then there's also Mark Rich, an author, and he published a couple of books that people didn't like, and now they're just torturing him and wearing him down. I mean, really harassment, brutal gang stalking, absolutely awful. In England, this was all US, by the way. This is now the US section, so it's here, And the US is bigger than the other countries. I'm not trampling on the US specifically, it's just bigger, so I found more people. And there are many, many more. This is just a selection that I sent to the Germans, like, hey, this is real, wake up, wake the F up. But they didn't care. So England, you have Philip Kerr, a businessman, who's actually suing MI5 in the courts. His court case was called Philip Kerr versus Attorney General in February 2015 in the High Court in London. And he says he's being stalked by MI5 for over 13 years. MI5 also tried to kidnap him and pumped him with drugs. Sorry, no, they did kidnap him. They pumped him with drugs, they kidnapped him, and tried to make him become an informant, but that misfired. I mean, how could it not after they do something like that? Oh yeah, I really want to work with you. Woo! There's also Carl Clark, a whistleblower, an MI6 whistleblower, who has basically blown the whistle on the fact that human civilians are being tortured by the intelligence agencies with radiation weapons, microwave weapons, psychotronic weapons that interfere with your brain and all this sort of stuff. And then he got harassed as well. But you can find Carl Clark, both written with a C. So Carl Clark. And then there's Dareem Daoud. He complained about being microwaved. There's a YouTube video where he shows a burn from a microwave beam where they burnt his eye. and I think shortly after he was found dead. Oh well, yeah, you know. And there was lots of shenanigans with the coroners, and you can find all that online. It's really, you know. Then you can also read about Andrea Davison. She is an MI6 whistleblower. She blew the whistle on child sex abuse and I think weapons to Iraq. She has been stalked, robbed, and in the end had to flee England because of the harassment. And I think most of it was North Wales police, I think. Like, you know, insane, absolutely insane. There's also Baroness Jones, an MP, a member of parliament in England. She's being under surveillance and, you know, I think probably also stalked. I'm not sure if she notices the stalking, but she knows she's under surveillance by these, you know, Muppets. Then there's also Christopher Story, who's I think the pen name of Edward Hull. He was a very, very well regarded journalist and editor. And if you Google or you on YouTube, you Google on YouTube, Christopher Story, you will find his talks, which are, I think, extremely good. I'm a great fan. Based on what I've seen, it just blew my mind. But I've seen his talk by him in 2000, or you know, I've seen it recently, but it's from 2009, and he talks about, you know, huge corruption in the EU and how he was fighting to have derivatives, you know, essentially shut down because they're fraudulent financial instruments, and then a year later I think he was dead, and I found some traces online that he might have been murdered. So, you know, no idea, but you know, that also freaks you out. So Christopher Story specifically wasn't, I don't think he complained about electromagnetic harassment, but, yes, I remember why I included him here, because he also, in one of the talks on YouTube, you can see him say the intelligence agencies these days are not just vertically but also horizontally integrated, meaning they are one organization, okay? Oh yes, and there's also Melanie Shaw in England. This is like a horrific case. She blew the whistle on prolific child sex abuse. And then I think she was set up because somehow she blows the whistle on serious organized crime where children are being tortured and, you know, have their life wrecked. And I'm not sure if she blew the whistle on them being murdered. But then this young woman ends up not just in jail, like what looks like indefinitely, but also in what I've heard from the UK column, in solitary confinement for 23 and a half hours, per day. So she's let out for half an hour per day. Hey, what? I mean, you don't put like the most, you know, like mafia bosses maybe in solitary confinement, but like a young woman who's a whistleblower. And not just that, the UK column has a picture of her. And essentially she says, this is Melanie Shaw, and like a beautiful woman, really, really cheerful. And there's a picture of her on the UK column juxtaposing. It's like, this is Melanie Shaw before she went into jail. And this is after 1 year in jail. And I think the jail she was at first was HMP Peterborough. But I have heard that now she is at HMP Foston Hall. HMP stands for Her Majesty's Prison. That's the UK for you. So, you know, it's but that's the thing. You've got this image, and when you find it on the UK column, the image after 1 year in confinement, her face looks asymmetrical. You know, like her right eye, her eyebrow is lower, and her eyelid seems like drooping. So it looks like she's got a stroke, but she's really young, and she's in confinement, and no one's allowed to see her for 23 and a half hours per day. I mean, I'm sorry, to me it looks like someone's trying to electromagnetically lobotomize her, you know, which is what's happening to me, by the way. Repeated shots to my, you know, prefrontal cortex and like everywhere else in my brain so that she can't testify. That's what it looks like to me. So if you can check this, please. Melanie Shaw, Shaw spelled S-H-A-W, and she has been reported on by the UK column. And it's really important because I believe, based on the pictures that the UK column has shown, that it can be the case, and it would not surprise me, after what happened to Andrea Davison in England, that she has been maliciously irradiated whilst in confinement with electromagnetic weapons. So this shit is serious, people. You know, valuable whistleblowers get maimed and mutilated. That is the reality. So get on the case. Stop like mocking people like me. you know, I'm not like the cleverest person, but up to this date, I'm the best bet you have, right? Because at least I am a physicist, you know? So please get on the case. And yes, they are torturing me. They are murdering me. They are affecting my heart. And yes, I keep getting shot in the head so that I too neurologically degrade and cannot talk to you anymore. So this is serious. Okay, but I don't just want to bash the US and England. Now on to Germany. Dr. Reinhard Munzert at the University of Erlangen. Well, he has been, I think his partner started being attacked by a neighbor in 2002. And because he's, you know, scientific minded, I think he did psychology, you know, I think that's his main area. But, you know, he literally researched the physics, and I think he might have had lectures in physics as well. I have to check his bio, but you can find him online. Dr. Reinhard, spelled Reinhard, and Munzert is Munzert, German name, Dr. Reinhard Munzert. His website is www.mikrowellen, so micro, spelled with a K, Wellen is WELLEN.de. And I'm pointing this out because most of his website is in German, but the front page, and I think one summary article is in English. And that's like the best article about microwave weapons to date. And I shall find it and link it as well here. Now, oh sorry, actually let me make a note before I forget. You know, I do say that I'll link these things, but then I don't. Okay, then Peter Kutza, you can find him online. Peter, and then Kutza, Kutza. He has put up pictures of himself being burned, being bruised by microwave weapons. And what I've seen, there's not much information about him, but what I've seen is that's exactly what I have, those sorts of injuries. His are much bigger, and I think that's because he was, I think, attacked at the end of the 90s or early 2000s. And essentially that's like 16 years ago. So now the weapons are such that you get bruised internally and not so much on the outside. Horrific stuff. Then there's the famous case of Rolf Gössner, so spelled R-O-L-F. That, I think the information about him I found mostly in German, but I think there's also other articles. And Gössner is spelled G-O-double-dot. If you don't have that on your keyboard, write O-E. So Goessner. And he is a lawyer, okay, who's been under surveillance for 38 years. Or actually 40 years by now. I think the article's 2 years ago. 40 years. Why? Because as a university student, he attended a left-wing protest. And the German internal intelligence, like the Verfassungsschutz, put this man on a freaking watch list. Hey, you know? And you can't get off. It's like the no-fly list. You know, they just keep watching you. Like, after 10 years, what is there to know? And then after 20 years, what on earth is there to know? And then you go on for another 20 years after you watch somebody from 20s. I mean, this is what I mean by these are organizations out of control because, or maybe they never were under control, but now they've gone absolutely, they are running amok, you know, mentally AWOL, totally, and they don't make any freaking sense. And that's because any organization that's opaque will eventually degenerate, become psychopathic and corrupt, because there are no external mechanisms to restore it back to health. People are not allowed to look in, people inside are not allowed to complain towards the outside because of secrecy, and an organization like that degenerates. And that's what you can see. And then what victims experience is that they're being under, you know, kept under surveillance for 40 years. And it's a lawyer. It's a lot. I mean, first of all, he also has legal privilege, and that has been violated. But, you know, like what, we don't have a problem in the world where, you know, lawyers, I mean, maybe, yeah, in a sense we do, lawyers are our biggest problem, you know, but in another sense, in terms of terrorism, you know, that's not lawyers' type of terrorism, you know, that you need to have put people under surveillance. Anyway, oh God. And then also online I found that in Germany there are over 2,700 victims, including 43 children, registered with charities. But this I only found as a quote. I didn't have the names of all the 2,700. So if anyone can investigate and find out, you know, get more tangible evidence for that, please pass it on to me. I need it. In Belgium, there's a lady, very clever lady called Melanie Richan, and she has been like implanted, irradiated, chipped, is being stalked, has break-ins. It's an absolute nightmare. Essentially, this entire Nazi network just, you know, rounded up on her, and that's what they do. They round up, they gang up on weak people, and they turn on them, you know. So God. Anyway, and then there's also in the Netherlands, there's Peter Mooring, who founded StopEG, so STOPEG.com, so Stop Organized Gang Stalking and Electromagnetic Irradiation. And in Israel, I also found Doreen Dotan, and Doreen spelled D-O-R-E-E-N, and then Dotan, D-O-T-A-N. And she's a human rights activist, and in one of her videos, she says that she's 60% disabled. But imagine, you know, you've got somebody who's like, has enough of their own problems being disabled, but then also fights for the human rights of others. And then she is being stalked and terrorized. Like, what sort of scum does that to her? And you know, you watch her videos, and I haven't, you know, I've just seen, I think, 2 or 3, where she, you know, she talks about the actual gang stalking. And actually, when my gang stalking and harassment started, I think after 2 or 3 years, I was really worn down, and I just Googled gang stalking. And there's one video of her where you can see her, she's got long white hair, and on the video she is... she's got like a hairband, and she says, you know, it's like an information video, like for what all victims of organized gang stalking should know. And it's like a 20-minute video. I will try to find it, but it was the most touching thing. And the way she spoke to other victims, actually that got me through the day, you know, at that moment. I was so worn down. I was in Germany at the time, and the Nazi-style gang stalking that essentially the Bundesnachrichtendienst did with me, because this is the German foreign intelligence. We ended up, I didn't know at the time, but we ended up renting a flat 1.5 kilometers from German foreign intelligence, and there were just gang stalkers being trained up around us. And literally these people, because by the time I moved to Germany, I was already on a surveillance list, they just took my life as a prop. And these Nazis just don't give a shit. They really don't. They are not human. They are psychopaths. They are deranged end-state psychopaths, I think, in the leadership. They don't give a shit about humans. But they also, you know, don't... What you give a damn about personally inside your head is one thing. But when you're the head of a dangerous organization, that's essentially serious. That is a national security issue. But what they also don't give a damn about is the laws of the land. You know, the laws of the land. And in Germany, the Grundgesetz, the very first sentence is, human dignity is untouchable. And what happened to me in Germany is that there, God, this is just like so intimate and so private, but God, I mean, I hate talking about this stuff, but this is the truth, okay? So I'm not going to be ashamed. They should be ashamed. Essentially, every single time my husband and I, you know, had just an intimate moment together, or just were, you know, were husband and wife, after that, it would be commented on by strangers in the street. And there would be like a phase where, you know, if I would leave the house after that, I'll be called sex machine over and over. And literally, at some point, I was just cycling. I went for just a cycle ride out, and I was in like fields and, you know, next to a forest. And I just stopped because there was a fast road, you know, with like a traffic light and a fast road crossing. And then this car stopped. And then a young chap leaned out of the window and screamed this sex machine, literally across like, you know, the 30 meters that we were there, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, what are the chances when this has happened to you over and over, and then that happens? No, this is essentially these degenerate spies listening into young women or young couples' private life, and then getting off on commenting on that. And sorry, this happened like within a, you know, 1.5 kilometers around the Bundesnachrichtendienst. So it's probably not the KGB, you know. That's the last thing they would do, like covertly, you know, kind of rent a flat next to the Bundesnachrichtendienst and then really piss off a German citizen by doing that, by commenting on her private life. I don't think so. So, you know, this is essentially the degeneracy of the Bundesnachrichtendienst. They don't control the agents. They are just free to do this bullshit. And that's the truth. And I say this, you know, this is the truth. This is what happened. God, sorry about the rant. Now I talked, about me as a victim, but actually I wanted to talk to you about these victims, which you can find online, like the full list. And, and it's just that at that time when these things were happening, I saw the video by Doreen Dotan, and she said, listen, this is a spiritual war. Do not be worn down by just a little bit of gang stalking. You need to be much bigger than that. And I listened to her video and I was like, oh man, thank you. That really helped me. That really, really helped me. Anyway, God, I made the video really long now. Now at the end, now in the last, after 40 minutes, I will also, one of the things, because I started off with this excellent YouTube video by We the Seekers, he also at 18 minutes 30, in his video, what he does is he also checks, which is really commendable. We know how I told you that the mother of my best friend was almost hit by lightning in the radio show. That's true. And I explained that I found, for my court case, I found a company called Applied Energetics, and they make something called laser guided energy. And this man from We the Seekers actually Googled Applied Energetics and laser guided energy, and then at 18 minutes 30 you can see his Google search. He clicks at a link and he gets put through an Amazon page, and what product is on the Amazon page, it's quite telling. But again, the fact that this happens, I haven't made this up, but the fact that this happens and the type of Amazon page, I'll leave it to you to find that out, shows you what these people are like. Because they are mocking you, they are trying to humiliate you, and that link, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. If you go to his video at 18 minutes 30 and watch from then onwards, it's like 2 minutes, you'll find it. But then I also wanted to prove, this is like my court bundle, it says official documents, one of my many court bundles. You can see what it looks like inside. It says Horton versus SIS, which is the Secret Intelligence Service, evidence, and this was for a lawyer I in the end never got, so it was my spare bundle. But inside, what you have is like, several tabs, and let me just find the one. Oh yeah, here it is. So this is what I found about Applied Energetics. That's their company logo. Sorry, can you see that? That's their company logo, and it says laser guided energy, like there. Can you see? That is what the company looked like. And I printed this out. I think in June, I think. Yeah, it must have been June. And let me get this out. So I was trying to get proof to the court that this stuff actually happens. Here, laser guided energy. And I highlighted a couple of things. And I'm going to read them out. So it says, Applied Energetics is the sole and exclusive developer of laser-guided energy, LGE, trademarked, and laser-induced plasma channel, LIPC, technology, which is also copyrighted. You can actually look up LIPC because it's a registered copyright. It has got the R on it, it's registered. These revolutionary technologies can precisely transmit high-voltage electrical charges by using an ultra-short pulse laser, so an ultra-short pulse laser, to create a conductive path in the atmosphere. This technique can deliver tailored weapon and countermeasure effects to targets with laser accuracy and with manageable lethality to reduce the potential for inadvertent injury and collateral damage. Well, I'm saying that when my best friend's mother was hit in a city on literally just above, sea level, not in the Andes, on a day, no thunderstorms or something, shopping, out with her friend, she crossed the road between two fairly tall buildings, and lightning struck her, next to her, not her, next to her, into a stone. So she is taller than the stone, but the lightning strikes the stone next to her? Well, physically this is very unlikely. And what I'm saying, that somewhere around her or above her, maybe in a first floor window, someone actually tried out this gun, and because my friend's mother is in her 70s, they thought, oh yeah, if she dies, we'll just say it's either lightning or, she had a heart attack. And they are essentially testing how close you can get to a person firing before you kill them by accident. That's what it looks like to me, people. Do you see? It's like, oh, manageable lethality. Like what? Yeah, you managed not to kill my best friend's mom. You Nazis. And I should say that I am a German citizen. They are German citizens, but we're all refugees to Germany. I fled from the communist system. You know, they fled from the Middle East. And they are very good people. You know. So we're really talking teachers, businessmen, dentists, doctors, surgeons, right? Working their ass off to repair Germans in Germany. And this is essentially what you get. But you're always just Ausländer for these degenerate Nazis. And I do call them degenerate Nazis, because who the hell would do something like that? So that's what I mean. And that's why I'm so angry. You know, and when people say, oh yeah, but oh, lightning, ha ha ha. Yeah, this is serious, people, because this shit is being produced. And I don't think it's that expensive. Do you see? And then, sorry, I'm not actually shouting at you, I'm shouting at them, okay? I'm really angry. So the LGE, which is this laser-guided technology, has been in development since the company's inception in 2002. And the company has protected what it believes to be the enabling intellectual property through US patent filings. Find it. I don't have time to look it up, but find it. Find it for me and send it to me. Please, please, we need to find these people. And in addition to our current Army contract, LGE development has been funded through multiple Department of Defense contracts in support of US Navy, Air Force, and the Office of Secretary of Defense program objectives. This was public on you know, Google. This was their company, public company website. I didn't hack into anything, or this is not a leaked document. I'm not endangering the national security of the US by reading it out, because it was, you know, on the internet, guys. And I'm not saying this is being misused in the US. I'm saying this is being bought by the Germans, or maybe stuff like this is being developed by them, and it's being tested out on foreigners. Surprise, surprise. So, sorry, before anyone thinks I'm anti-US or anti-England or anti-anything, no, I'm anti-criminal scumbags, basically. But not them, the people who use this stuff on private people, essentially, that's what I'm saying. And then they say, today our efforts are focused on refining the design of essential laser-guided energy subsystems, extending our reach, well, they seem to have reached Germany, and working on the many aspects of preparing this technology for work in harsh military environments. Yeah, harsh military environments, not next to a shopping mall in a major German city. You nut jobs, not you. You nut jobs who just used that on my best friend's mom. Is that a harsh military environment? You know, Jesus. Through our counter IED, I'm not sure what IED means, through our counter IED programs, we have amply demonstrated the effectiveness of electric discharge techniques for IED neutralization. I don't know, can someone in the army tell me what IED means? It's an acronym that, you know. Laser-guided energy is the clear next step in addressing this urgent mission, and offers the capability for IED neutralization at safe standoff distances. Yeah, which means that the person on the first floor was safe when they shot at my best friend's mom. Super. So anyway, this is their logo. It really exists. I haven't made this stuff up. And go to We the Seekers at 18 minutes and 30 seconds to see what happened when that gentleman actually tried to find it on Google and click on the link from Google. I think it was Google or some other search engine. So, you know, so many people must have Googled this, and they were just, you know, essentially told to F off by this company, which is just like amazing. You know, when it's about selling it to psychopath bastards, they're like, hey, here, buy our products. And when you say, hang on a second, I think it is something like that they almost try to kill me with. When you then research it, people are like, no, we can't have this, you know. And then you get the sort of, you get transferred to that sort of Amazon product that you can see. I mean, you know, guys, can you see now where the battle eyes are? Can you see? Because we need your help to actually have this stuff brought back into sanity. You know, I'm not saying this company should manufacture this stuff. I'm saying that the intelligence agency shouldn't use it on civilians. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, enough for now.